Hey everybody, ronarray here, and for the last few days I've been improving my martial artist build even further. So now it is ready, the Uber Whirling Assault monk build. This variation is pushing the build to a very high damage, so you can farm even the most difficult content in the game with ease. It has even more AoE, 7k energy shield, 60% evasion, and all of that without expensive builds like Headhunter or Mageblood. Now it can almost one-tap anything you touch. In this video, I will showcase all the changes and talk more about what improved my damage the most, and will also provide the priority for upgrades in case your budget is tight, so you can build something similar yourself. You can also check my detailed guide with a lot of additional information and recommendations on how to make your build stronger, both in the pinned comment and in the description. Please subscribe to the channel to not miss more updates or other great builds, and let's go! So, talking about the damage, in the hideout, my Whirling Assault currently have 133,000 of damage. If I'm using pinpoint critical. Pinpoint, in my opinion, is not that good anymore, so most of the time instead I'm using blindside for 124,000 damage, which is pretty good in my opinion. However, there's also an option with concentrated, which can give up to 161,000. So right here I'm going to cover the supports for Whirling Assault first. So I believe that Rage is providing a pretty good bonus right now, so it should stay, together with Elemental Armament, which is buffing our overall damage since we're doing all types of elemental at the moment. Efficiency, in my opinion, is pretty mandatory because mana situation is not really nice, skill cost a lot. I think you can boost damage even further if you drop it, and at the moment I'm using Rigveld's Ferocity, which could be kinda expensive for some variations of the build, so if you don't have currency for Rigveld's, you can use Ancestral Call instead. As you can see, it's giving a pretty decent chunk of damage compared to Ancestral Call, which is not calculated properly. But most of the time my setup is looking like that. Or you can swap pinpoint critical to guarantee a 100% critical hit chance. However, blindside is not calculated by the tooltip, so it's just going to give you 15% more critical damage bonus and more critical chance as well in the most situations. So I believe it's honestly worth to use it over pinpoint at the moment because it's going to end up with better damage in game. And another option is also concentrated area, but I believe that AoE is giving a big quality of life and it's not really worth to swap it in. However, it can make your number go up in that case. So if you don't have Rigveld's, feel free to use Ancestral Call or Pinpoint Critical as your last support right here. But everything else is staying the same. Getting the skill with higher level perfectly, Corrupted level 21, could also improve your damage pretty nice. So now let's talk about how you can get your damage higher as well. So the most important part of my damage is obviously my weapon. At the moment I'm using triple elemental weapon with like tier 1 stats. It could be too expensive in some situations, so if your budget is lower, go for like tier 3, tier 4 and variations like that. Having plus level of all melee skills on the weapon is also pretty important. And critical hit chance comes close second. So critical damage, in my opinion, is not a big deal right now, so don't even search for it. I think it's not important. Instead, just focus on getting as high elemental damage DPS stuff, and after that try to get plus 4 or plus 5 skill level of all melee skills on it. That's the most important part when we're talking about the weapons. The more expensive one you will get, the more damage you will have. However, even with a pretty mediocre stuff, you will be able to have decent damage as well. So for example, if I will use at the moment my previous stuff that I've been using before, I can just swap, and as you can see, I'm around 80,000 of damage with blindside, and if you will swap pinpoint, it's going to be 84. So the damage should be still pretty high for you, even if not as high as like with a very decent weapon which you can get for higher amount of currency. So right here I just had Cold and Lightning plus 4 levels and some crit. Perfectly, you should have at least that to reach a decent damage. Next up is your gloves. For the gloves, it's pretty important to get Arcane Search when you deal a critical hit, and it provides a huge quality of life bonus. If you don't have currency, you can get rid of it. You're probably going to generate charges just fine with just a Wind Dancer setup and with Killing Palm when you need it on bosses. However, getting flat damage on your gloves together with critical damage bonus and arcane surge is pretty important. And emergent possibility is also adding a pretty nice amount of damage as well. Next step after you finished with the weapon and the gloves is your ring. At the moment I'm using one breach ring which is mirrored by Calendar's Touch. Calendar's Touch is approximately like 25 divines at the moment, so if your budget is not high enough and you just don't have money for two amazing rings, you can just buy one instead and mirror it with Calendar's Touch. At the ring you need to get as many like tier 1 flat damage modifiers as you can get, so lightning, fire and cold. Getting elemental instead of physical is a pretty nice thing because it's going to get multiplied by Trinity and other multiplication bonuses in your build. So on top of that, getting plus full level of melee skills or at least plus 3 on your amulet is a pretty big thing as well. First off, the weapon, after that gloves and ring. That's the most important parts which are practically making your DPS significantly higher just by themselves. Don't forget about the level of the skill too. Now let's talk quickly about the tree. At the moment I changed tree a little as you can see, so I'm not going to subterfuge anymore, and instead I'm going up to reach dampening shield, all 3 bonuses right here, and crit right here as well. So a quick explanation why I'm doing exactly that and not something else. At the moment, I believe that when we are going down here, we can reach Harness Elements, which is 60% increased damage. But right here, if you'll spend all 3 points, we're going to end up with 90%, which is pretty obviously better. Also, we can reach Efficient Casting, which is better variation of Conservative Casting. And if you will spend more points for that, we can also even get rid of efficiency completely. However, I'm going to experiment with that a little later on, and at the moment I'm still playing that particular support. And to the left, we can also get Dampening Shield, which will help us with Element Threshold and Stun Threshold. If you have those nodes, you can drop the point right here, you don't need it anymore, because you will not get stunned and it will protect you against elements pretty good as well. So I believe going to the left here is a pretty great idea. I'm also picking all small nodes here and there, and the rest of my jewels are staying the same. So I have Heart of the Wall up there. And right here I have a pretty nice Time Loss Sapphire. That Time Loss Sapphire is giving me critical hit, critical damage bonus, critical hit chance and maximum energy shield. If you can get AoE on top, it's pretty nice, but the most important stat right here is just critical damage bonus itself. If you can get critical damage bonus plus energy shield, it's already going to outperform most of the normal jewels, since you have a lot of passives around there. Keep in mind that it's definitely worth it. So going back to the gems at the moment, I believe for Whirling Assault just a blindside variation is the strongest option, even if it's giving less tooltip. For Tempest Bell it's Magnified Area, Ancestral Call, Close Combat Durability and Blindside again. I'm running Ghost Dance with cooldown recovery and clarity just to get a little more mana and recover my energy shield. Killing Palm with Thrill of the Kill, Charge Profusion, Blazing Critical and Rage is helping to generate charges on bosses. Herald of Ash with Magnified is pretty nice. I'm constantly forgetting to change the Magnified to level 2. I'm probably going to do that right now. And for the Wind Dancer, you can use Blind, Maim, Culmination and Earth Chimes. That time when enemies are hitting you, you're going to generate power charges. To apply Earth Chimes to Wind Dancer, you will need to put Culmination in first, so make sure you're doing it. For charge stuff, I'm running Prolonged Duration, Culling Strike, Blazing Critical and Innervate. My Trinity is level 20 with only Fire Mastery. And Hollow Focus has Magnified, Cooldown, Close Combat, Blind and Culling Strike. And Hollow Form at the moment, I'm using Blindside, Concentrated, Elemental and Burgeon. I'm mostly using Concentrated right here, because I'm just focusing on using Hollow Form for harder encounters such as bosses and then other variations like that. But at the moment my damage with Whirling Assault is so high that just using Whirling Assault and Bell itself is usually good enough to kill most of the enemies just fine. It leads to a situation when I don't really need to use Hollow Form that often anymore, so if my damage will keep going up, maybe in one of the next updates, I'm going to drop Hollow Form completely and will just focus on using Whirling Assault against everything in the game. Still, for now it stays in the build because I believe it provides a pretty nice upside, especially when you have all the charges up. And talking about the rest of the items, for survivability, I'm using Chevron Satchel still, so all builds numbers are created without Mage Blood or Headhunter in mind. But if you have Mage Blood or Headhunter, you can use any of them, just make sure you're getting more evasion so Ghost Shroud can regenerate your energy shield easier. So you already see my rings and gloves. For the helmet, I'm just using high energy shield one. For the boots, I'm running a pretty nice variation with like a lot of evasion rating, double resistances and higher movement speed too. And my body armor is practically the same, so like triple resistance, high evasion, high energy shield, just for better survivability. For charms, I'm running anti-slow, anti-freeze and anti-stun. I think it's working pretty nice, but if you need something against Ignite, feel free to swap out the stun variation for Ignite charm. And don't forget that for Chevron Satchel you need to use Flask with Recover applied instantly. I'm also still not using Levian Gas because I believe that having just a Flask with % of recovery applied instantly and that's spamming it when your mana is going down is just more comfortable option than Levian Gas, because Levian Gas is not providing that high bonus for mana regeneration. So talking a little more about the supports. For example, if you have Garukans or Rakiatas, you will probably have better luck just putting it right there in the slot that I'm using for Blindside at the moment. So if you want to go for a more expensive version, you can just add it right there. Same with the second gem, you can also try to replace efficiency. The mana is going to be significantly worse, but I don't really feel like it's the end of the world. You can still compensate with some particular bonuses such as mana leech or mana on kill, which is probably going to be fine most of the time. So any expensive gem that you have probably goes to those two sockets. And talking about the Rig Vaults, at the moment I believe that Rig Vaults is a pretty nice addition to the build, but it's not adding that much, especially considering a pretty big price. However, if you're using Rig Vaults, make sure that you have your weapon in the second weapons set, because Rig Vault is going to give you more damage in the second weapon set instead of more attack speed. It's a pretty nice bonus, so like since we're aiming for more damage, and if you have Rig Vault, just run it in the second weapon set instead of first. But I probably recommend to invest into it only if you already have very good weapon, very good rings, and the rest of the items are very nice, because it costs a lot and the bonus that it's providing over other variations of supports such as Ancestral Call is not that big. Same goes for Mage Blood and Headhunter, both are pretty nice to have, but definitely not necessary to play the build. I hope watching that video will help you out to improve your own damage and make your build even stronger. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time. ronarray out.